My name is Miriam Chen, and for 12 years, I was the invisible engine of a $5.2 million company that bore my mother's name. The smell of Peking duck hung heavy in the private dining room of Golden Phoenix Restaurant. That particular blend of crispy skin, hoisin sauce, and the faint metallic tang of expensive wine being poured into crystal glasses. I remember the exact moment everything changed, not because of the words that would come, but because of the notification that lit up my phone screen at 7:47 p.m. on what was supposed to be my mother's 65th birthday celebration. Alert: Chase business account ending in 4892. Wire transfer $175,000 to Lena Chen personal account. Reference: family distribution? I stared at the screen, my chopsticks frozen halfway to my mouth, while around me, my family continued their celebration as if the ground hadn't just shifted beneath my feet. My sister Lena was laughing at something her husband Marcus had said, her designer dress catching the light from the ornate chandeliers. Her two children, my niece and nephew, were playing with their tablets, oblivious to the adult world around them. My mother sat at the head of the table like an empress surveying her domain, her jade bracelet clicking against the mahogany as she reached for her wine glass. "Miriam, you're not eating," my mother observed, her eyes sharp despite the festive occasion. "You're always so distracted. This is why you don't have a husband, you know. Men don't like women who are always thinking about work." The fork in Lena's hand scraped against the porcelain plate, a sound like nails on a chalkboard that seemed to echo in the sudden silence. I watched her exchange a glance with my mother, something passing between them that I couldn't quite read. "Actually, Mother," Lena said, setting down her utensils with deliberate precision, "since we're all here together, there's something we need to discuss about the company." I felt the weight of every eye in the room shift toward me. The notification on my phone seemed to burn through my pocket. "Chen Digital Solutions has been doing well," I began, because this was my territory, my creation. "We're on track to exceed projections by—" "That's exactly what we need to talk about," my mother interrupted. She reached into her Hermes bag and pulled out a manila folder, the kind lawyers use for important documents. "I've been thinking about the future, about legacy, about what happens when I'm gone." The room felt smaller suddenly, the walls pressing in. I noticed Marcus pouring himself another glass of wine, his eyes carefully avoiding mine. "Lena has children," my mother continued, as if this explained everything. "She has a family to support. You, Miriam, you have only yourself. You don't need the company the way she does." The words didn't register at first. They bounced off my consciousness like stones skipping across water, refusing to sink in. "I'm sorry," I said slowly. "What exactly are you saying?" My mother slid the folder across the table toward me. "I've had the lawyers drop the paperwork. As of today, Chen Digital Solutions will be transferred entirely to Lena. She'll be the new CEO and sole owner. You'll receive a small severance package, $50,000 for your years of service. $50,000 for 12 years for building a $5.2 million company from nothing." I opened the folder with hands that didn't shake. Not yet. The documents were real, notarized, dated 3 weeks ago. My mother's signature was there, bold and familiar. And there, at the bottom of the transfer agreement, was another signature I recognized. My own. Except I had never signed this document. I had never seen this document. The signature was close. Someone had practiced. But the loop on the M was wrong, and the tail of the N didn't have my characteristic flourish. "I didn't sign this," I said quietly. "Of course you did," my mother replied smoothly. "Don't you remember? 3 weeks ago, when you came to dinner? You were tired. You'd had some wine, but you agreed it was the right thing to do, for the family." I looked at Lena, who was studying her manicured nails with intense concentration. At Marcus, who was suddenly very interested in the pattern on the tablecloth. At my mother, whose expression hadn't changed. Still that same serene confidence of a woman who had never been told no. "I wasn't at dinner 3 weeks ago," I said. "I was in Seattle closing the Morrison account. I have the flight records, the hotel receipts, the signed contract with a timestamp. For the first time, something flickered across my mother's face. Uncertainty, perhaps, or annoyance at an unexpected complication. "Miriam, don't be difficult," she said. "This is what's best for everyone. Lena needs this. Her children need this. You're young, you're smart, you can build something else. But Lena, she's not like you. She needs help, she needs support, she has kids." Those 3 words, spoken as if they were a trump card, an unassailable argument, the final word in any debate. I thought about the last 12 years, about the nights I'd spent coding until 3 a.m. because we couldn't afford to hire another developer, about the clients I'd personally courted, the relationships I'd built one handshake at a time, about the $340,000 of my own savings I'd invested in the early years when the company was struggling. Money I'd never asked to be repaid because it was family. I thought about Lena, who had shown up to the office maybe twice a year for board meetings that consisted of her scrolling through Instagram while I presented quarterly reports. About Marcus, who had once asked me if the cloud was like actual clouds in the sky. About my mother, who had contributed her name and her expectations and nothing else. And I thought about that forged signature sitting in a manila folder like a snake coiled in dry leaves. "I need some air," I said, standing up so abruptly that my chair scraped against the floor. The sound was loud in the sudden silence. Louder than Lena's fork on porcelain, louder than my mother's jade bracelet, louder than the shattering of everything I thought I knew about my family. "Miriam, sit down," my mother commanded. "We're not finished discussing this." "Yes," I said, and my voice was calm, terrifyingly calm, even to my own ears. "We are." I walked out of the Golden Phoenix restaurant at 8:23 p.m. on October 14th, leaving behind a table full of people who had just stolen my life's work and expected me to thank them for it. The thing about being the family workhorse is that no one notices the work. They only notice when it stops. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I drove to my office. The office I had designed, furnished, and filled with a team of 37 employees who trusted me. And I sat in the dark, surrounded by the ghosts of 12 years of labor. Chen Digital Solutions had started in my mother's garage in 2012. I was 24 years old, fresh out of Stanford, with a computer science degree and a head full of ideas. My mother had provided the initial $15,000 investment, money she never let me forget, and her name, because Chen sounded more established than my father's surname, which I'd taken after their divorce. What she hadn't provided was the 18-hour days, the cold calling, the rejection after rejection, until finally, a small accounting firm in Pasadena agreed to let me build their website. The $2,500 from that first contract felt like $1 million. I grew the company one client at a time. I learned SEO, digital marketing, app development, cloud architecture. I hired my first employee in 2014, a developer named James who was still with me, now as Chief Technology Officer. I brought in my first major client in 2016, Morrison & Associates, a law firm that would eventually account for 15% of our annual revenue. By 2024, Chen Digital Solutions had 37 full-time employees, 142 active client accounts, annual revenue of $5.2 million, a proprietary project management system. I had personally coded contracts worth $3.8 million in projected future revenue. And through all of it, my mother collected her founder's dividend, $8,000 a month automatically deposited into her account for the privilege of having her name on the door. Lena collected too, of course. She was listed as Director of Client Relations, a title that existed only on paper. Her salary, $95,000 a year, plus benefits, plus a company car, plus an expense account she used primarily for spa treatments and business lunches that never involved actual business. I had never questioned these arrangements. They were family. Family took care of each other. Family sacrificed. Family, apparently, also committed forgery and fraud. I pulled out my laptop and began to dig. The first thing I did was download every bank statement from the past 5 years, both personal and business accounts. The files populated my screen like a digital autopsy. Each transaction, a data point in a pattern I was only beginning to see. Chen Digital Solutions business account, irregular transactions, 2019-2024, monthly consulting fee to Lena Chen, 7,916,97,95,000 year, monthly founder's dividend to Grace Chen, mother, $8,000 quarterly, board meeting expenses, $12,000, $18,000, receipts showed luxury restaurant bills, spa services, designer purchases, annual equipment upgrade for Lena Chen, $15,000, receipts showed jewelry, handbags, vacation packages, Marcus Chen, brother-in-law, IT consulting, $3,500 month, no evidence of any work performed, total extracted by family members over 5 years, $1,847,000. But that wasn't the worst of it. I pulled my personal credit report next, using the free annual service I'd been too busy to check for the past 3 years. The document loaded slowly, each section revealing new horrors. Credit report. Miriam Chen, credit score, 621, down from 780 in 2021. Open accounts, 7. I only had 3. Total outstanding debt, $267,452. I stared at the screen, my coffee growing cold beside me. I had 3 credit cards with a combined limit of $45,000, all paid off monthly. I had no car payment. I'd bought my Honda Accord outright. I had no mortgage. I rented a modest apartment in Glendale. So where was $207,107 in debt coming from? I clicked through to the account details. Account 1, Chase Sapphire Reserve. Opened March 2019. Credit limit, $50,000. Current balance, $47,792. Primary card holder, Miriam Chen. Authorized user, Lena Chen. I did not open this account. Account 2, American Express. Platinum opened July 2020. Credit limit, $75,000. Current balance, $71,340. Primary card holder, Miriam Chen. Authorized user, Grace Chen. I did not open this account. Account 3, Home Equity Line of Credit. Wells Fargo. Opened January 2022. Credit limit, $150,000. Current balance, $140,208. Property address, 4890 Magnolia Drive, Arcadia, CA. This is my mother's house. I am not on the deed. I did not apply for this HELOC. Account 4, Personal Loan, Discover opened September 2023. Original amount, $35,000. Current balance, $32,847. Purpose. Listed, Home Improvement. I did not apply for this loan. The document swam before my eyes. Someone, and I knew exactly who, had been opening accounts in my name for 5 years. They had used my social security number, my credit history, my identity to fund a lifestyle I had never lived. Total fraudulent debt in my name, $397. I thought about my mother's Hermes bags, Lena's designer dresses, Marcus's new BMW, the private school tuition for my niece and nephew, the vacation photos on Instagram, Bali, Paris, Tokyo, Santorini, all of it paid for with my name, my credit, my future. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I made phone calls. At 6 a.m., I called James, my CTO. I need you to meet me at the office. Bring your laptop, and don't tell anyone. At 7 a.m., I called my accountant, Patricia Wong. I need a full forensic audit of Chen Digital Solutions going back 5 years. Bill me personally, not the company. At 8 a.m., I called a lawyer. Not the family lawyer who had drawn up those fraudulent transfer documents, but a former classmate from Stanford who now specialized in corporate fraud. David, I need help. Someone forged my signature and stole my company. At 9 a.m., I called the Arcadia Police Department and requested information about filing an identity theft report. At 10 a.m., I walked into my office, regardless of what any forged document said, and I began to build my case. The next 3 weeks were a masterclass in forensic accounting and strategic patience. James and I worked in secret, after hours, documenting everything. We created a secure folder on an encrypted drive. I called it the Ledger. and filled it with evidence. The ledger contained bank statements showing $1.847 million in family extractions from company accounts, credit reports documenting $297 in fraudulent debt forged signature analysis from a certified document examiner, cost $2,500, flight records, hotel receipts, and time-stamped contracts proving I was in Seattle when the transfer documents were allegedly signed IP address logs showing that the fraudulent credit applications were submitted from my mother's home address email records between Lena and Marcus discussing the plan. They had used the company email server, apparently unaware that I had admin access. A complete client database with contact information, contract terms, and project history's source code for our proprietary systems, which I had personally written and which belonged to me under work-for-hire laws since I had never signed an IP assignment agreement. The emails were particularly damning. From Lena Chen, LinaoChenDigital.com to Marcus Chen, MarcusChenDigital.com. Date, September 28, 2024. Subject, the plan. Mom talked to the lawyer today. He says we can backdate the transfer documents to make it look like Miriam agreed months ago. She's so busy with work, she won't even notice until it's done. And even if she does, what's she going to do? Sue her own mother? LOL. The best part is, once I'm CEO, I can finally fire that smug bitch James and hire some people who actually respect me. Maybe I'll give Marcus the CTO job. How hard can it be? From Marcus Chen, MarcusChenDigital.com to Lena Chen, LinaChenDigital.com. Date, September 28th, 2024. Subject, the plan. Babe, you're a genius. Your mom is right. Miriam doesn't need the money anyway. She doesn't have kids. She doesn't have a life. The company is wasted on her. You'll be a much better CEO. More visionary. P.S. Can you transfer another $20,000 to my account? I saw a watch I really want. I read these emails with a coldness that surprised me. There was no anger. Not yet. Just a clinical detachment as if I were observing specimens under a microscope. These people had never seen me as family. They had seen me as a resource to be exploited. David, my lawyer, laid out my options during our third meeting. You have a strong case for fraud, forgery, and identity theft, he said, spreading documents across his conference table. The forged signature alone is a felony. The credit fraud is federal. If you want to pursue criminal charges, you could put your mother and sister in prison. I considered this. Prison. Orange jumpsuits, mugshots. The satisfaction of watching them led away in handcuffs. What about the company? I asked. That's more complicated. Your mother is listed as the original founder, and she does have the legal right to transfer her ownership stake. The question is whether the transfer documents are valid given the forged signature. We can challenge it in court, but that could take years and cost hundreds of thousands in legal fees. And if I don't challenge it, David leaned back in his chair. Then Lena becomes the legal owner of Chen Digital Solutions. But here's the thing, Miriam. She becomes the owner of the company as it exists on paper. The client relationships, the technical knowledge, the proprietary systems, those aren't transferable. They exist in your head and in the heads of your employees. I understood what he was saying. The company was a shell. I was the substance. What about the debt? I asked. The $300,000 they put in my name? File an identity theft report with the FTC. Dispute the accounts with the credit bureaus. Provide the evidence we've gathered. It'll take time, but you can get most of it removed. The key is documentation, and you have plenty of that. I nodded slowly, a plan forming in my mind. I don't want to go to court, I said finally. I don't want years of litigation and legal fees. I want something cleaner, something faster. What did you have in mind? I pulled out my laptop and opened the ledger. I want to give them exactly what they asked for, I said. The company, all of it. And then I want to watch them try to run it without me. November 1, 2024, the separation. I walked into Chen Digital Solutions at 8 a.m., exactly 2 weeks after the birthday dinner. Lena was already there. First, sitting in my office chair with her feet on my desk, scrolling through her phone. "Oh, Miriam," she said, not bothering to look up. "Mom said you'd probably come crawling back eventually. I hope you're here to apologize for making such a scene at dinner." I set a folder on the desk, my desk, though not for much longer. "I'm here to facilitate the transition," I said calmly. "As the outgoing CEO, I have certain responsibilities." Lena's eyes narrowed. She hadn't expected this. She'd expected tears, pleading, maybe a dramatic confrontation that would give her the moral high ground. "Well," she said slowly, "that's very professional of you. I've prepared a comprehensive handover document," I continued, opening the folder. "Client contact information, project timelines, system passwords, vendor relationships, everything you'll need to run the company." I watched her face as she flipped through the pages. She didn't understand half of what she was looking at. I could tell by the way her eyes glazed over at the technical specifications, but she nodded along as if she did. "This is very thorough," she said. "I also need to inform you of some personnel changes. As of today, the following employees have submitted their resignations, effective immediately." I handed her a second document, a list of names. 31 names to be exact. Resignations effective November 1st, 2024. James Morrison, CTO Sarah Kim, Lead Developer Michael Torres, Senior Developer Jennifer Walsh, Project Manager David Park, UX Designer, 27 additional names. Lena's face went pale. "What is this? They can't all quit at once. That's not legal." "Actually, it is. California is an at-will employment state. Employees can resign at any time, for any reason, with or without notice. I've simply informed them of the ownership change and let them make their own decisions." "You told them to quit," Lena accused. "You sabotaged me." "I told them the truth," I corrected. "That the company was under new management, that I would no longer be involved, and that they should consider their options carefully. They made their own choices." I didn't mention that I'd also offered them all positions at my new venture, a company I'd quietly incorporated the week before, called Miriam Chen Consulting. I didn't mention that James had already secured our 3 largest clients, who had made it clear that their contracts were with me, not with Chen Digital Solutions. "You can't do this," Lena said, her voice rising. Your mother can do whatever she likes," I interrupted. "She owns this company now. Congratulations. I hope you enjoy it." I turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Oh, one more thing. I've removed myself from all joint accounts and revoked my personal guarantees on the business line of credit. The bank will probably want to discuss the company's financial situation with you. I'd recommend hiring a good accountant." I walked out of Chen Digital Solutions for the last time, leaving my sister sitting in an empty office, surrounded by the ashes of an empire she didn't know how to run. The same day, I executed the rest of my plan. 10 Hirosur AM, filed an identity theft report with the FTC, including all documentation of fraudulent accounts. 11 Ikars AM, submitted disputes to all 3 credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, for the 4 fraudulent accounts totaling 397. 12 Harbors PM, froze my credit with all 3 bureaus to prevent any new accounts from being opened. 1 Bar PM, changed all passwords on personal accounts, enabled 2-factor authentication, and set up a new email address that my family didn't know about. 2 PM, closed my personal checking account at Chase, where my mother was listed as a beneficiary, and opened a new account at a different bank. 3 PM, met with David to finalize the paperwork for Miriam Chen Consulting, LLC. 1 PM, signed a lease for a new office space, smaller than Chen Digital Solutions, but mine. 5 PM, sent a certified letter to my mother's address. Return receipt requested. The letter was simple. "Dear Mother, I am writing to formally notify you that I am aware of the following. 1. The forged signature on the Chen Digital Solutions transfer documents. 2. The fraudulent credit accounts opened in my name totaling 300,997.3. the unauthorized wire transfer of $175,000 from company accounts. 4. The pattern of financial exploitation spanning 5 years and totaling $147,000. I have filed an identity theft report with the Federal Trade Commission and am in the process of disputing all fraudulent accounts. I have also consulted with legal counsel regarding potential criminal charges for forgery, fraud, and identity theft. At this time, I am choosing not to pursue criminal prosecution. This decision is not based on forgiveness or family loyalty, but on a practical assessment of my time and energy. I have better things to do than watch you go to prison. However, I want to be clear, our relationship is over. Do not contact me. Do not come to my home. Do not attempt to reach me through mutual acquaintances. Any further attempts to use my identity, my credit, or my name will result in immediate criminal referral. You wanted the company, you have it. I hope it brings you everything you deserve. Miriam Chen, November 15, 2024. The first cracks. 2 weeks after the transition, I received a call from Patricia Wong, my accountant. Miriam, I thought you should know. I just got a frantic call from someone named Lena Chen. She wanted to know why the company's operating account only has $12,000 in it. I smiled, though Patricia couldn't see it. What did you tell her? I told her I was no longer affiliated with Chen Digital Solutions and couldn't discuss their finances. She did not take it well. I imagine not. She also wanted to know where the Morrison account payments were. Apparently, they were expecting a $45,000 deposit that never came. Morrison moved their contract to my new company, I said, along with about 60% of the client base. The ones who stayed are mostly small accounts, maybe $200,000 in annual revenue total. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Miriam, that company is going to collapse. Yes, I agreed. It is. December 1st, 2024, the spiral. The calls started coming in mid-December. First from Lena, which I ignored, then from Marcus, which I also ignored, then from my mother, whose voicemails grew increasingly desperate. Miriam, this is your mother. I don't know what game you're playing, but you need to come back to the office. Immediately. There are problems with the systems. Nothing is working. Call me back. Miriam, this is urgent. The bank is asking questions about the line of credit. They want financial statements we don't have. You need to fix this. Miriam, I am your mother. You cannot ignore me. I gave you everything. I gave you that company. And this is how you repay me? By destroying it? Call me back right now. I saved each voicemail, added them to the ledger, continued building my new company. Miriam Chen. Consulting was thriving. We'd launched with 28 employees, most of my former team, and 2.1 million in contracted revenue from clients who had followed me. We were lean, focused, and free of parasites. Meanwhile, Chen Digital Solutions was hemorrhaging. James kept me informed through his network of contacts. Then the remaining 6 employees had quit within the first month, unable to work under Lena's chaotic management. The proprietary systems I'd built had crashed. Repeatedly, because no one knew how to maintain them. Client complaints were piling up. Deadlines were being missed. And then there was the money. Without my financial oversight, Lena and Marcus had continued spending as if nothing had changed. The company credit cards were maxed out. The operating account was empty. The line of credit, which I had personally guaranteed until I'd revoked that guarantee, was now the bank's problem. December 15, 2024, Chen Digital Solutions received a formal notice of default on their $500,000 business line of credit. December 20th, 2024, the company's largest remaining client, a regional hospital chain, terminated their contract citing failure to deliver promised services. December 28th, 2024, Lena Chen, CEO of Chen Digital Solutions, filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. January 5th, 2025, the reckoning. The knock on my apartment door came at 7 p.m. on a Sunday. I knew who it was before I opened it. I'd been expecting this visit for weeks. My mother stood in the hallway, looking older than I'd ever seen her. Her designer clothes were wrinkled, her hair unstyled, her jade bracelet conspicuously absent. Behind her stood Lena, mascara streaked down her face, and Marcus, who couldn't meet my eyes. "Miriam," my mother said, "we need to talk." I leaned against the doorframe, making no move to let them in. "I received your certified letter," I said, "the one informing me that you're not pursuing criminal charges. Very generous of you. This isn't about the letter. This is about family." Family. I let the word hang in the air. "That's interesting. Tell me, Mother, when you forged my signature on those transfer documents, were you thinking about family? When you opened credit cards in my name and ran up $300,000 in debt, was that family? When you called me a failure at your birthday dinner, right before stealing my company, was that the family love you're talking about?" My mother's face hardened. "Everything I did for this family. Lena needed that company. She has children. She has responsibilities. You have nothing but your work." "I have nothing," I repeated slowly, "because you took everything. But here's what's interesting, Mother. I built that company from nothing once. I can do it again. Can you?" Lena stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "Miriam, please. The bank is going to foreclose on Mom's house. The HELOC, the one they opened in your name. We can't make the payments. We're going to lose everything." "The HELOC that was opened fraudulently in my name," I clarified. "The one I've already reported to the authorities. The one that's currently under investigation for identity theft." "You have to help us," Lena pleaded. "We're family. You can't just let us become homeless." I looked at my sister, really looked at her, for the first time in years. I saw the desperation in her eyes, the fear, the dawning realization that the safety net she'd always taken for granted was gone. "Do you remember," I said quietly, "when I was 26 years old and I asked you for a $5,000 loan to buy equipment for the company? The company that would eventually make you a millionaire?" Lena blinked. "What? You said no. You said you couldn't afford it. You were carrying a $3,000 handbag at the time." I paused. "I remember, Lena. I remember every time I asked for help and was told I didn't need it. Every time I was passed over for praise because I didn't have children. Every time my accomplishments were dismissed because they didn't fit the family narrative. We didn't mean." "You meant every word, every slight, every dismissal, every theft. You meant all of it. You just didn't expect consequences." My mother pushed past Lena, her eyes blazing. "You ungrateful child. I gave you life. I gave you opportunities. I gave you that company. You gave me your name on a piece of paper and a $15,000 loan that I repaid within the first year." I interrupted. "I gave you 12 years of my life, $1.8 million in family dividends, and a credit score you destroyed. I think we're more than even. If you don't help us, we'll go to the police. We'll tell them you stole the company, that you sabotaged us, that you—" "Go ahead." I pulled out my phone and opened the ledger. I have documentation of every fraudulent transaction, every forged signature, every email discussing the plan. I have testimony from a certified document examiner. I have IP address logs proving the credit applications came from your house. If you want to involve the police, Mother, I welcome it. I've been waiting for an excuse." The fight went out of her then. I watched it happen, the moment she realized that she had no leverage, no power, no cards left to play. "What do you want?" she asked finally. "Money? An apology? What will it take to make this right?" I considered the question carefully. "I want you to understand something," I said. "For 12 years, I was the invisible support beam holding up this family. I paid the bills you didn't know about. I covered the shortfalls you never noticed. I sacrificed my time, my energy, my credit, my future, all because I believed that family meant something. That loyalty would be repaid with loyalty. That love would be repaid with love." I stepped back from the doorway. I was wrong. Family, to you, meant someone to exploit. Love meant control in a nicer outfit. And loyalty meant I would keep giving until there was nothing left. "Miriam, I'm done giving. I'm done sacrificing. I'm done being the invisible one. I began to close the door. The house, the debt, the bankruptcy, those are your problems now. You wanted to run things without me. Congratulations. You're running them. Please, Lena whispered. The children. Think about the children. I paused, the door half closed. I think about them all the time, I said. I think about what they're learning from you, that it's okay to steal from family, that hard work doesn't matter, that there will always be someone else to clean up your messes. I think about the values you're teaching them. And I hope, for their sake, that they learn different lessons than the ones you've taught me. I closed the door. Through the wood, I heard my mother's voice, muffled but still sharp. You'll regret this. When you're old and alone, you'll regret turning your back on your family. I didn't respond. I walked to my window and looked out at the city lights, at the life I was building on my own terms. I didn't feel regret. I felt free. March 15th, 2025. The aftermath. 3 months after that final confrontation, I received a letter from a law firm I didn't recognize. It was a notification that my mother's house, the house on Magnolia Drive where I'd grown up, where I'd dreamed of building something meaningful, had been sold at foreclosure auction. The proceeds had been used to partially satisfy the fraudulent HELOC, which had been removed from my credit report after the identity theft investigation concluded. My credit score had recovered to 745. The fraudulent accounts had been closed and removed from my record. The investigation had resulted in a formal finding of identity theft, though no criminal charges had been filed. My choice, not theirs. Lena and Marcus had filed for personal bankruptcy. They'd moved into a small apartment in a less desirable part of town. Their children transferred to public school. Marcus's BMW had been repossessed. Lena's designer wardrobe had been sold on consignment. My mother was living with them now, in a 2-bedroom apartment that housed 5 people. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she spent most of her time watching television and complaining about how ungrateful